What's up everyone, thanks for stopping by. Today we're talking all about the Altra Mont Blanc. This is Altra's brand new trail running shoe for 2022 and there is a ton of excitement out there for this shoe specifically. Went out for my first run in it today. I didn't get this shoe early, I paid for it with my own money, just so you know that. And in this video I'm going to explain everything all about my first thoughts on this shoe, the Altra Mont Blanc. Let's go. All right, once again, thanks for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, once again, it's all about trail and ultra running and a lot of shoe reviews. So with this one, the Altra Mont Blanc, I was extremely excited to get my feet back in a pair of Ultras. If you don't know, I was on the Ultra Red team for about 5 years, but ultimately decided to leave the team so I could take this channel in another direction and do shoe reviews of all different brands. So this is actually my first Ultra back since leaving the team, and this one is a pretty interesting shoe and I have a lot of opinions about it. Like I mentioned, I have a long history with Ultra, so getting my foot back into an Ultra felt very familiar. As I was browsing Ultra's website, mysteriously the shoe is actually not on their website yet. Like there's no official information about this shoe that I can tell on their website, so I got all of this information from runningwarehouse.com. I got a US size 11.5 as always, and there were no fit issues. As far as stack height, as you may know with Ultra, they advertised a balanced cushioning, or what it used to be called zero drop. So the stack height in the heel is 32 millimeters and the forefoot is also 32 millimeters, giving you a flat surface to run on. Ultra's approach to this has always been zero drop, balanced cushioning. You're going to get a very different feel out there when you're running, and so if you are trying Ultra for the first time, it's going to feel really weird. But that's part of the Ultra story. The other story is the foot shape shoes, and so you'll see that the forefoot is a lot wider. Typically, again, the first time you try an Ultra out, it feels like there's just way too much room in there. It feels like your foot is swimming and it's kind of like all over the place. Once you get used to it though, you start to realize that your foot is allowed to splay a little bit more, and so if that works for you, it works wonderfully. So if you are looking at trying out Ultra, I would recommend getting a pair and just kind of easing it into your rotation. Don't dive in head first because you're gonna have some problems if you do that. But moving on, the weight in my size was 10.84 ounces, which came out to 307.4 grams. In a size 9, it's gonna come in at 9.6 ounces. And this was quite a shock to me because everything I had seen leading up to the release of this shoe is that this was going to be a light trail running shoe. And I actually watched a video where Ultra themselves said about 50 times in 5 minutes that this is going to be a light shoe. So I was expecting something that would just like blow me away. But 10.84 ounces is really not that light. In comparison, it's pretty much exactly the same as the Hoka Evo Speed Goat. And now it is about a ½ ounce lighter than the Hoka Speed Goat 5. But if you have any experience with the Hoka Speed Goat line, we're pretty much talking the same weight here. So my run today, I did about 5 miles during lunch, and I was able to get a really good mix of trails, which were kind of snowy and frozen over, and I was also able to get out on the roads and do a couple miles out there because I really wanted to test what the shoe felt like running more at speed. But all right, let's take a tour of the shoe, give you guys some info and my perspective on it. The upper, this is gonna be a race-inspired upper, they say. It's a mono mesh upper, so if you have any experience with that, it's gonna feel really thin and feel really light and breathable on your foot. Personally, I just feel like this is going to be a great upper. And also running through a whole lot of snow, I didn't get a whole lot of water that crept through, so it does feel like it's pretty tightly knit. So you're probably going to have some pretty good experiences out there in possibly light rain or just kind of like running early in the morning where there's a lot of dew on the grass. Part of this upper that I did have some problems with though was this heel, and you can see here there is no structure to it. It's just this mono mesh fabric and some padding. So there's a whole lot of flexibility back here and not much structure at all, which I know is what they're going for. They're going for a lightweight racer. And I can probably get over this if it was a little bit lighter of a shoe, but we're talking like the same exact weight as the Evo Speedgoat, and that heel cup had a lot more structure and was just a lot more comfortable, honestly. So that's my first negative point about this shoe, is this heel. Also the padding in here, we're gonna talk about this, but the padding for the lockdown, it didn't work. For me, the padding is actually too low, so I actually found that instead of locking my heel down, it kind of encouraged slipping. So the heel cup is a fine shape, but the actual padding where it contacts your foot is right here where my finger is. So it's quite a bit lower than the actual top of the heel cup. And that's where I just felt like it was a little bit too low, and it's actually there's not really any padding along the back wall back here by your Achilles. It's super, super thin. Most of the padding's on the sides. And for me, I just had a pretty loose heel. But let's talk about something positive, the forefoot. I actually really did like this forefoot. It had plenty of room. Now this is Altra's standard last, which means it's sort of their in-between. You have their original last, which is quite a bit wider, so the Lone Peak Olympus fits in that category. And then you have their slim fit, which currently only is the Ultra Riviera, which I have not run in. But then you have their standard fit, which is the Timp, the Superior, and also the Torin. So if you like those shoes, this is gonna feel really, really similar. All right, moving on to the tongue. Let's talk about this for a second, and I'm sorry everyone. I think it's a big miss on this shoe. First of all, it's just cut too small and it's too thin. So let's talk about the first thing, the size of it. Actually, if you see right here, when the shoe is relaxed, it sinks down to almost lower than the heel cup and even the top laces. We're like dangerously close to, in its most relaxed state, to just being just way too short. In order to get any of that padding to cross the top lace, you have to pull it actually farther than it's supposed to go, and then you're going to get a lot of bunching up here in the toe box. So you can't really do that. So this tongue, the padding stops short of the last two crossovers. That caused a big problem during this run. And second of all, the laces. The design of these laces are kind of like hiking boots, and being round like this, they actually produce more pressure than maybe a flat lace would. So I have a problem with that as well. Last couple things about the upper, it does have a gator trap on the back and a pull tab here, but no gator trap on the front. So you're gonna have to figure out a different system. You're gonna have to get something with a button or a clip to go on your lace up here if you wanna use gators. All right, let's move on and talk about the midsole. So again, we've got 32 millimeters of stack, which is pretty high. Like that's like, we're getting up there in stack height. So when I pulled the shoe out of the box, I looked at it, it looked like it was gonna be a max cushion shoe, but that's not really the experience I had. The midsole is an Ego Max material. Again, sounds like max cushion, but what they actually mean by max is that it's going to be really durable and performance-based. What I was hoping that durable meant was that they found a new way to process this compound so it was going to be cushioned and cushioned for a long time. But unfortunately, that's not my first experience with this shoe. It actually felt pretty firm. And that actually goes with the performance-based description of it. If you want a shoe for racing, you're going to want something that is a little bit more on the firm side. You're not going to want a super squishy marshmallow that just kind of goes all over the place. You're going to want something that you have confidence in running fast. I think right out of the box, I would have had a hard time doing like a 20 or 25 miler in this shoe. As far as the rocker goes, there's not much. And yeah, I know Altra is dealing with their self-imposed limitations of having zero drop. So it's gonna be really hard to create that rocker feel. But shoes like the Olympus are able to do that with the shape of the forefoot into the toe. But with this shoe, I didn't get much of a rocker sense. It felt a little bit more like a hiking shoe, honestly, and that mixed with the firm midsole was just a kind of surprising experience. Definitely not what I was expecting with this shoe. And this is something that I'm going to pay attention to over time and see if this changes, because there was a couple times during this run today where I was stepping on a frozen patch of the trail that would kind of feel like a rock maybe, and my whole foot rolled with it, and that wasn't always my experience with a lot of other trail shoes. A lot of shoes have enough cushion to absorb some of that, the changing variation in the terrain. Moving on to the outsole, we have a Vibram light base outsole, so you're going to be getting a little bit less of that Vibram rubber out here, but it is going to decrease the weight of the shoe. I didn't find any problems with that. I felt like the grip was just totally fine out there. Seemed pretty standard for what I've experienced with other Vibram outsoles, so nothing really to write home about. The one thing I will say though is that the outsole, the profile is large. So you're going to get a lot of surface area in the back and a lot of surface area in the front. All right, let's wrap it up and talk about my final first reaction, first impressions of this shoe after just one run. A lot of times it does take shoes a while to really come into themselves, and sometimes the first run isn't the most accurate picture of what the shoe can actually do. With the Altra Mont Blanc, I'm really hoping that that is the case. Like I said a couple times, I'm going to be paying attention to the heel. Not a great first impression on the first run. I'm going to be paying attention to the tongue. Again, not great first impression. And I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to this midsole to see how this Ego Max does. Now, the Ego Max midsole is actually in the Torin 5, which I haven't run in, but I would be surprised if the Torin 5 actually felt this firm. I'm wondering if there's just a little bit of a change they made for this shoe specifically, or if it possibly has to do with how much rubber is out here on the outsole. Maybe that is changing the dynamic of how the shoe feels a lot as well. But personally, I'm on the fence whether this is going to be an actual ultra running shoe, because yes, it is lighter than some of their other offerings, but it's really not a light trail running shoe. And like I said, it's basically exactly the same as the Evo Speedgo, and it's only a ½ ounce lighter than the Speedgo 5 that comes out next month. I would say don't get hyped about the light marketing behind this shoe, because it is fairly average out there in across other brands. So if you're on the fence about this, I would say just wait for my full review. Also, there's going to be a BOA version of this shoe coming out soon, which is going to have a totally different upper and hopefully fit a lot better, especially in the heel. Hopefully we're gonna be able to get a lot better lockdown. That's one of the things where I just really struggled with that today. But hopefully the BOA version is gonna fix a lot of those problems. So as soon as I can get my hands on a pair of those, I will, and I will let you know everything I think about that one as well. But that's it for this one. I'm gonna keep running in this and definitely bring you guys a full review soon, hopefully let you know all my thoughts after a few more runs in this shoe. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.